back from break, and nothing works. It's good to be back. We got a lot to get to today, including recapping a trip from hell. Hot Mic starts now.
This is Hot Mic. Hot Mic. On the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Hot Mic. We don't have our normal intro. Eric's telling me I'm hearing weird stuff in my ears. It sounds great here this morning, so I'm hearing echoey stuff. That's great. Welcome back to the big show. Hope everybody had a great 4th of July weekend. It was a rather, what's the right word to describe? Interesting last 7 days since I've been here, which we'll detail here in a bit. I hope everybody enjoyed the 4th. I was in the great Empire State of New York. Yeah, this is, I'm not sure if I could use that. I'll have to fix that, too, because there's some reverb going on in my ears there. Welcome to the show. It's great to be back. Hope everybody had a dynamite weekend. Enjoyed the 4th as best as they could. Not sure where to start other than it was eventful. We'll get to the news of the week. I know Sam did a great job, and tip of the hat to Sam for filling in last week and covering everything as best as he did, including, obviously, there's some rather major news since I was gone. Of course, that happened with the House settlement decision that came down last Monday that NDSU opted in, joining all the other Dakota schools, other 318 other Division I schools that decided to opt in. And we'll detail that coming up later on in the show. And then, obviously, there was some football news as well, with longtime coach Nick Gazer stepping away after 15 years and 10 national championships as a Bison assistant. The second longtime Bison coach to step down since the national championship win in Frisco in January, joining Randy Hedberg, of course, who retired back in late January, early February. And now Gazer gone. And then the hiring of Cody Morgan, another Iola, Wisconsin guy from the same hometown as Gazer and Bison head coach Tim Polasek. So the holiday week did not preclude any big news that was happening over the last 6 to 7 days. So shout out to Sam, and I appreciate him filling in here. I have done this now routinely, have come back to work this particular week and next week, which traditionally is the deadest time on the sports calendar. Now, it actually ends today because college football season begins tomorrow. And I know you're going to look at your watch and say, well, wait a minute. Tomorrow is July 8th. We're still a month and a half away. Well, the first media days for college football start tomorrow in, of all places, Frisco, Texas, in the Big 12 having its media day. Of course, we were there last year in Las Vegas. They're moving it around. This year it's going to be in, of all places, Frisco to kick off the season. The SEC has its the following week. The Missouri Valley Football Conference has its 2 weeks from today in Sioux Falls. So, yeah, it's here. NFL teams starting to report to training camp. It's a go time. So that was the reason to take vacation when we did. Now, quick backstory on this, because everybody has horrendous travel stories. If you travel enough, you will run into the gamut of this. And unfortunately, I've done this now a couple of times. Thankfully, I've done it by myself. I had not had my family in tow. And that was the case this past week. So originally, and it's too bad our video isn't working because I got I made a whole map of what we did. Originally, we were leaving a week ago this morning out of Hector International here in town for seemed like a routine trip. And I'm going to put them on full blast on United Air because United just hosed us completely. To go from Hector to O'Hare in Chicago, and then from O'Hare to Syracuse, New York, which is roughly 45 minutes south of my hometown. We were supposed to get in at about 4:30 Eastern time Monday afternoon. That was the easy peasy plan. We had a little bit of a connection worry because it was about an hour and 10 minutes, hour and 20. But typically, those flights from Fargo to Chicago get in early, especially the weather looked good. We were all set to go. So myself, my wife, Courtney, the Jack man, we got up, ready to go, dropped the dog off to doggy daycare. We're all set. Get to the airport pretty early, actually. We're checking bags because we're gone for a week. So we're in, all set. Flight's at 10:30. We're in at 8:45. We were there early. So be it. All set, ready to go. Everything normal, nothing to be alarmed about prior to the actual loading up of the plane. We actually start boarding on time, and then word comes over the PA that we have to deplane because there is no one there to inspect the plane because they worked late the previous night until 3 o'clock in the morning, we're told, 3 o'clock Monday morning, and we need to wait, and we should have somebody there by noon. Automatically, the wheels are turning in my head here because now I know how long the flight is. We're going to miss our connecting flight from O'Hare to Syracuse if we leave at noon. So I'm like, okay, well, they can rebook us. We can get on the later flight that leaves, and we can get to Syracuse about 9 o'clock, out of Chicago at 6, whatever. Well, then the great wait began, and noon became 1. 1 became 2:30. We're still in Fargo. 2:30 became 4. 4 became 5:30. Finally, they tell us somebody's there. I actually saw this happening, and they have rebooked us. We're on the airplane. We're going to go. And then I look on my app, and our flight that we had rebooked is gone. Oh, okay. What? So I go up to the gate agent. Gate agent doesn't know what happened. Then has to rebook me on a flight from O'Hare to Dulles in Washington, D.C., and then from Washington, D.C. to Syracuse, New York on now Tuesday, because Monday's out, because we're not even leaving Fargo now till 6 o'clock at night. So we're boarding the plane when I'm trying to get this done. They say, okay, got it, good. Get on the airplane. So we're on the plane, and we're take off. We leave at 6:30 Monday evening. A full 10-hour wait in Fargo. 10 hours. That derailed the whole thing. Get to Chicago at about 8:30. Everything was fine there. Then have to deal with United to get a voucher for a hotel because, hello, we need something. That took a bit. Had to get a shuttle. That took another hour. Meanwhile, my 6-year-old son is a champ. Absolute. He's rolling with it his best, especially for 10 hours at the Fargo airport. Let me tell you, I love Hector. There ain't much to do at Hector International after about an hour. So, and he had plenty of it. He had his iPad, the whole 9 yards. Anyway, we get to Chicago. We get to the hotel at about 10:30 Monday night. So we've lost a day. Now, our next flight, we leave at 10 o'clock from O'Hare on Tuesday morning to get to Dulles, then to Syracuse. And that was the part I was nervous about the most. A, dealing with Chicago traffic. B, dealing with O'Hare security. And honestly, that was the easiest part about it. We got to the airport fairly early because it's O'Hare. And at about 7:30. Actually, for the first time ever, and I apologize to anybody that was there, we cut the line because we had Jack. There's apparently a family security screening line. I've never seen this before. And they showed us, hey, go through here. And then next, I look at my wife. I'm like, we're cutting easily 60 people. And let's go. Didn't even think twice about it. That was fantastic. So actually, that part was great. We get on the airplane. That part was the best part about the whole trip, from Chicago to Dulles. Okay, so now we're in Washington, D.C. We have about a 2.5-hour layover there to get to Syracuse. We're supposed to get in about 7 o'clock Eastern time. And as we're coming in to Washington, D.C., this is last Tuesday, the weather there on the East Coast was not good. There were thunderstorms popping up all over the place, and it just was looking ominous. We land, I can hear thunder rumbling outside, and we have not really actually, the three of us sat down to have a meal together in a day and a half. We actually found a place to sit down and eat. And it's about 2:30 now on Tuesday afternoon. We're supposed to have been there at 4 o'clock Monday. And my phone starts going crazy in my pocket, that's not a good sign. Regardless. And I pull it out, and I have an alert. And I show it to my wife, and it says, flight canceled. And at this point, I shot up out of my chair, and my wife says, just go, because she knew where I was going. I had to go all the way to the other side of the terminal back to our gate. And unfortunately, I didn't come close to Steve Martin in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but I was awfully damn close. I'm not going to lie. Where I'm just trying to get home. And the gate agent, bless his soul, because he had been dealing with probably people ruder than me, or at least at DEFCON 5 like I was, says, well, there's a later flight at 10 o'clock tonight. We can put you on standby for that. But A, there's no guarantee it's going to leave because of the weather. And B, I don't have a seat, let alone 3. And I said, okay, well, when's the next get out? Well, I can get you out on Thursday. And then I just was done. By that time, my wife and Jack had arrived, and I looked and I said, well, we can drive, knowing it's about 6.5 hours from Washington, D.C. to Syracuse, because that's where my dad was going to pick us up. That was without stopping, not counting bathroom breaks for the Jackman, which I knew there'd be at least a couple. And I also knew with the amount of flights getting canceled, there was going to be a race on rental cars. So we said, okay, let's just do it. Got the rental car. This is now about 3 o'clock, 3:30 on Tuesday. Again, we were supposed to be there at 4 o'clock Monday. And at that point, hopped in the car, and Jack and Courtney got to see part of the country I don't think they ever counted on seeing, as we went from, and Dulles is in outside of D.C. It's Virginia. I can't say Western Virginia. It's the middle part of the state. And I wish, again, we had the video to make this work, of going north. And for people that don't know, that's Virginia, up to Maryland, through Pennsylvania. You got to see Gettysburg. I hadn't been there before. Southern Pennsylvania. This would be great for Getzinger because geography fails him. Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and then for people that know, New York is right north of it, and eventually pulled into Hancock International Airport to drop off the rental car at 11:45 p.m. Tuesday night. All along, by the way, we still didn't have our bags, which beat us to the airport, and we were able to pick them up. Now, one last thing on this, and actually we'll move on to the show, and maybe we've got some stuff working. We'll find out. We get to Oswego, New York, my hometown. And I was bugged because I'm still on the United app because I'm like, okay, we got to figure out to get reimbursed for the flight that we never took. But I'm looking on there, and it doesn't have our return trip. Our return trip from Syracuse to Fargo from yesterday. Turns out United canceled it. Don't know why. Just gone. Gone. So I had to panic and find a one-way to get us. But those are not the easiest locales to get to, folks. Everybody's had their own travel issue. I get it. But this one was top-notch on trying to figure out. Anyway, found that the one-way was more expensive than our entire trip to begin with. But at that point, like we got to get home. Spent another hour with United on the phone on Wednesday night. I'm not sure what the resolution is there, but as we sit here now at 9:16 Monday morning, and people ask me, how was the vacation? Well, you can go back and replay the last 12 minutes because that's how it was. Not to take away anything. It was great to see my family. My son had a blast and got to enjoy seeing his grandparents especially and his cousin. But, wow, that's all I could say. So it's great to be back. But apparently the travel curse that I have has now affected apparently all of our equipment inside WDAY. But what can you do? That being said, it's great to be back. And here we go. Like I said off the top, the football season is right around the corner. But holy cow, that was a lot. And I would tell you that if you ran into me, if you saw me on Monday in Fargo or Tuesday in Dulles, my face is about as red as Pat the Patriot's boots here because it was running hot. But glad. Yesterday, though, I'll say this. When air travel works, it's great. Yesterday was the epitome of that. Everything on time, boom, bam, gone. And when it doesn't, you are in the meat grinder like we were on Monday and Tuesday. 40 straight hours of traveling. 40. Gross. We have a great Monday show on tap. We got our usual Monday lineup of guests. Excited about that. We're going to do our best of the weekend, I hope, coming up here in just a few minutes. At 9:35, Sam Herder will join us. Congratulations to Sam. Got married a couple weeks ago. He's back from his honeymoon, and we'll throw him right back into it. Just chat about everything going on as we're now on the doorstep of the 2025 season. Officially today, we are 47 days out from the start of the 2025 season. We'll chat about the teams that decided to not opt in the FCS. A couple of big-name programs as well, and their reasoning there and how that's going to affect them competitively-wise starting the year. That's coming up at 9:35. Our guy Jeff Kolpack will join us at 10. He just told me he's off this week, but if need, I can run in. Well, yeah, I need you to run in. I thought you were working. So apparently, we'll need Kolpack. Why not? If not, we'll make it work. Coming up in our second hour. But that is our show lineup here on a Monday with apparently, we'll see what works or not. We're off and rolling. Glad you're joining us. Great to be back. Hot Mike returns after this on WDAY Extra, KSFL, KMBN, and Inforum.com. All right, welcome back, everybody, here on a Monday morning. Off and rolling. Great to be back here in the big chair. All right, lots to get to here. We missed a couple recruiting stories. We're going to salute it in the best of the weekend, but I'll mention it now because I know it went down last week, and I'm not sure if Sam talked about it or not. Maybe he did. On Kindred standout, Brooks Bacco, who we had on the show after he won the state championship in basketball for the Vikings back in March, delivered a monster shot in their victory over Devil's Lake, and we had him on the following Monday to chat what was ahead, either football or basketball. Football may be the road to go down. Captain Obvious point here. He was offered last weekend, not this past one, week prior, by one University of Michigan. As in the Wolverines, as in Ann Arbor, as in the Big Ten. Now, this isn't his first Big Ten offer. He's got 5 others, but the kid is blowing up, as we like to say. NDSU offered him a while back as well, but things have gotten legit now, as they like to say. It's a big-time deal for a guy that good height, 6'4", 200 pounds. Again, just wrapped up his sophomore year of high school, and holy cow, this guy could potentially be the limit here. So congratulations to Brooks, and we'll be keeping an eye on that. That's all going to matriculate now over the next, I'd say, 6 months or so. Again, no decision imminent here. He just wrapped up his sophomore year. He's a class of 2027, but going back to something we've talked about numerous times over the last couple of months, that 27 class on each side of the river in North Dakota and Minnesota, man, just crazy, crazy good right now. A couple other things. Minnesota Twins lost yesterday to Tampa. Rays end up winning the season series. The Twins are going for a sweep there, end up losing 7-5 yesterday in extras. Byron Buxton was named to the American League All-Star team. He's the only All-Star representative from Minnesota. Again, with a team that's 4 to 5 games under 500, they're not going to have multiple All-Stars. I know Twins fans were clamoring for Joe Ryan to be an All-Star, but we'll see. There'll be a host of guys that will not either participate or can't play, that maybe Ryan is an injury replacement or a late replacement on the roster. But as of now, Buxton will be the only one going next week to Atlanta, which is when we had Corey Provis on a couple weeks ago. Not necessarily a hometown for him, but he is from Georgia, so he'll have a chance to go back and play in his home state for the All-Star game a week from Tuesday. So I mentioned this before I went on vacation. The Twins have to figure out, they're 90 games into the season now, of what the future holds for their team. Are they going to sell, which I think they should, because the chances of making a postseason run with this again, they can't score any runs, is minimal, in my opinion, and I think that's shared by others that are in baseball. Because they're not going to add payroll. They're not going to go and add guy. They didn't even do that when the team wasn't for sale, let alone now when it is. They're not going to go and start adding guys. I don't foresee that happening. So now we're a week away from the All-Star break. Just make some moves and be done with it. Minnesota Lynx with a big win yesterday as well. They beat the Chicago Sky 80-75. Lynx have the best record in the WNBA now. It's 17-2. They lost that one game to Indiana last week for the Commissioner's Cup where Red Panda got hurt. I did see that in my travel travails. Say that 3 times fast. Was that Red Panda fell at Target Center. Should have known that things were going to go sideways after that. But the Lynx won, though, yesterday. Another big day from Nafisa Collier, who was one of the captains for the All-Star game, which is coming up here in just a little bit as well. Lynx are rolling, have a chance to win this whole thing. Remember, of course, they lost in the deciding game last fall, to the New York Liberty in 5. Boy, they've been really, really good in 2025. Fun to watch with Collier. Courtney Williams has been really good. Kayla McBride, who should have been an All-Star. They've been dynamite. It'll be fun to see how the rest of the second half of the season unfolds for them. Whoa, we have video? Well, I'm glad we got it hopefully back working. But that's some of the game from yesterday for the Lynx. Couple other items to get to here before we break. We got Sam Herder coming up here in just a couple minutes, and we're going to chat on everything that's gone down over the last 2 weeks. And we left, my last day was, June 27th, I want to say. So Texas State made it official that they're now a Pac-12 school. That was the last thing of the realignment wheel. Because then July 1, Mo State officially now is an FBS school. Let that sink in for just a moment. It's hard for me to admit that. I've been to Springfield many a time, that now they are a Conference USA school with the University of Delaware. I've been there as well, and they are FBS schools. That became official. St. Thomas became an official entrant now to the NCAA postseason. If they qualify in any sport, they can go. You'll remember in baseball, they won the Summit League each of the last couple of years. Basketball had a dynamite run. Softball's been good. Volleyball, hockey. Now it's official that if they win their conference tournament, they will go to the NCAA tournament. That is now official for 2026. That became official once the calendar turned to July 1. That's now, to me, there may be a couple of other minor moves, but in terms of and I know things got maybe crazy last week with Matt Larson speaking on why NDSU opted in, because I know there are fans of the Mountain West Conference or their Mountain West podcast that still believe NDSU is a viable maybe they are, but I don't see any more moves happening now. Not for a little bit. The realignment wheel is probably done after the Pac-12 got what they got. Now, maybe they'll go and add Memphis or something like that because there's still a hot rumor out there that they may not be done. But the Pac-12 got to their number, right? Mountain West has got what they want. That if that's going to come, it would be a shocker to me. Then again, we've always been caught off guard on this, but that's at least the latest there. All right, we'll break. We come back. It is 9:30 on a Monday, so Sam Herder will join us, newly married, off his honeymoon, and we're going to hit him with house settlement stuff. Nothing better than that. Back on a Monday morning on Hot Mic on WDAY Extra, Inforum.com, back after this. Welcome back, everybody. Hot Mic rolls on this Monday morning. Jeff Kolpack apparently will join us on vacation coming up in a half hour. It is Monday at 9:30, and newly married, and off of honeymoon, Sam Herder joins us from Hero Sports. BetMGM joins us each and every Monday to chat about everything going on, FCS football. First off, congratulations. Second, even more so, your travel was fantastic compared to mine, so I'm very envious of that. Third, I'm even prouder of you that you avoided all social media when you were on your honeymoon. So congratulations on that, most importantly.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, all smooth travels for us. I went to Maui, so that was a heck of a time. And
Nice.
yeah, it was the last month of June, so I knew there was going to be a lot of news out there. So I mostly stayed unplugged, but just kind of had like a Cliff Notes version on my phone of everything that was going on. And I set the over-under for realignment of 5.5 conference changes. And I think technically we did hit the over just because of the UAC taking some ASUN teams and fully forming. But I definitely think the over was hit on those realignment changes while I was gone.
All right, well, let's start there because I saw that and I was bitterly disappointed that the Summit League and the Missouri Valley Football Conference got nothing. Were you surprised on that?
I was. I thought the Summit League and the Valley would be able to get, at least the Utah schools, if not, the Texas schools. But I know the Texas schools wanted to stick together, and they formed a nice partnership between the ASUN and the WAC, just so the ASUN is no longer going to sponsor football, but all their basketball members are staying there. And then the WAC we all thought the WAC was going to die.
Yeah.
And it didn't, but the name died because now they're fully rebranding to the United Athletic Conference. And then the Big Sky adds Utah Tech and Southern Utah. That was a bit of a surprise to me just because I thought they could have gone without adding when Sacramento State decided to leave. But then, I only pay attention to football. Then I learned, some of their other sports needed to beef up their numbers just because of the NCAA minimum of 6 teams. So Southern Utah, I know, burned some bridges on their way out a few years ago, but they got brought back in. Utah Tech gets brought in as well. From a football perspective, I don't like that move a whole lot just because it does water down the Big Sky Conference. Southern Utah has been decent. Utah Tech hasn't been. So, I mean, we give the CAA flack for adding members that don't add much
Correct.
value. I mean, the Big Sky kind of did the same thing, but I understand it. It wasn't necessarily a football only move. It was, I think, like baseball and golf as well needed some or not baseball. I can't remember what sports it was.
I think softball and men's soccer were two big ones that I know that they were looking at there. It brings it up to 13 football members. And we've said it, we've talked about it in your segment. I wanted no part of the Utah schools in the Summit or the Missouri Valley Football Conference. I will say Southern Utah has a new AD, new president. They are under some investigation. That's why I thought there was some, for Title IX stuff, that I thought that there was maybe too many red flags for anybody to consider them. But the Big Sky decided to go back home again. Yeah,
Southern Utah was, their AD has since, I mean, they spun it that he resigns. I really think it was, if you don't
fired.
resign, we're probably going to let you go. But they, spun it in the press release as something different. But yeah, it was, I don't know specifically what it was. I think it was just kind of Title IX, athletic department, culture type of investigation. It was funny because Brett McMurphy, tweeted out that this was what was going on. And then Southern Utah's AD at the time said this is false reporting, and like everyone in the know is like, no, this is what is going on. And then he resigns, a few months later, or a couple of months later. So yeah, Southern Utah has been going through some stuff internally, but I think the Big Sky kind of felt good in adding some numbers, especially like we said for some of those other sports.
So the thing I got asked about this the following day or days after is, what does the Valley do now? And we talked about it on this show. I don't know what there is. There's nothing. There's no other real schools in the so-called footprint for the Missouri Valley Football Conference, which now is at 10 members, with Missouri State moving on to Conference USA. The Summit League is still at 9. I don't know where else they go, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, 10 members I think is a good number for football. 9 for the Summit League I think is, you probably want even numbers, but like 9 you're still fine. I mean, there's some conferences out there that have 7 members, and what is the minimum? I think 6 to retain your auto bids into NCAA tournaments. And so you're still probably sitting fine with 9, but with realignment, you just never know, especially with mid-major basketball. It seems like teams are switching conferences a lot. And so for the Summit League, if you lose a couple of members, then you're up against it as well. And so that's why I thought maybe the Summit and the Valley football would be a bit aggressive, and maybe they were aggressive. They just, couldn't land, a couple of teams, but I thought they had a prime opportunity to add some teams. And then for whatever reason that, those additions just didn't work out.
I don't like Lindenwood doesn't interest me. I don't know where else they go. I really don't know what the league does going forward.
Yeah, you probably imagine that they would stand pat,
and
just not make any additions. Northern Colorado, I know that was mentioned last week as not like it's out there. There's no smoke out there that Northern Colorado would actually join. But as far as just fits that could happen, Northern Colorado would be one. But I don't know if that really, it certainly doesn't move the needle for football.
Nope.
I don't know what Northern Colorado is like for its other sports, but if you want to get to 10 members, if you're the Summit League and you really want to add a member, maybe you go after them. But it seems like Northern Colorado would be perfectly comfortable staying in the Big Sky.
Yeah, and I'm not too jazzed on that one either, considering they haven't been good in football ever in the Division I era, and for their other sports, not great there either. So maybe we'll find out. Valley Media Day is a couple weeks from now. Okay, so we're a week removed from the deadline to decide. I believe Ross Dellinger from Yahoo Sports reported 319 of the Division I schools decided to opt in, Sam, and we had some unbelievable reversals. We were visiting off air. Montana, which was firmly in the no category of not opting in, decides in a last minute they decided to opt in, which I saw that as I was traveling Monday. I'm like, oh, okay, well, apparently they had the reversal. I was really interested because almost everybody pointed to the grandfathering in of the roster cuts because you can't do it next year. If you don't do it now, then you automatically got to get down to football at 105.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was on this show before the grandfathering in of rosters was allowed. I think we all agree there was probably no right or wrong decision to opt in or opt out. But once the grandfathering in of roster spots was allowed, and not only that, but I know it's confirmed elsewhere, but like I reached out as well because I thought it was a very important detail. If you don't opt in this year, but you opt in next year, can you grandfather in next year? Like that's a very, very important detail. And as we know, this is your only window to grandfather in those roster spots. And so even when up until the last minute when, or not the last minute, but the last day or so, last few days when South Dakota State was still considering it and NDSU was still considering it. And, I know Montana a few days before the deadline said they were still going to opt out until the last day. Then they opted in. And, I was kind of sitting there thinking, the ADs know way more than I do, and they know all the finer details more than any of us. But I just kept on scratching my head going, especially for the schools that said we might not opt in this year, but next year, I was kind of just going, why would you do that? Because you just wasted a 4 or 5 year runway to be above the roster limits. Now, if you're school A and you're already at 106 football players, and you're already at, maybe you're just one more player over for basketball and, 4 more over for track and field, like those roster cuts aren't as drastic. But for some schools, they would have had to cut 15 football players and 3 basketball players and 10 soccer players, whatever the case may be. So it just really never made sense to me why a school would opt out this year, but opt in next year. And so that's why I think you saw so many reversals of teams or schools deciding to opt in, whereas a month ago, they were definitely leaning toward opting out.
I am really interested. I don't know, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, and this is going to be my final point on this because I want to not talk about it anymore, of how many FCS schools actually go beyond 65 scholarships. If I were to, you're talking about under over on how many teams we're going to move in realignment. Maybe 5. It can't be. I don't think it's going to be that many.
Yeah, and the Big Sky in the SoCon in the Patriot League kept their scholarship minimum at 63 equivalencies. No scholarship caps, SWAC, Southland, CAA, OVC Big South, and the Missouri Valley Football Conference. Some of the other ones I'm not too sure about. I know the UAC was still deciding. And so we've talked about this before, but theoretically there could be FCS schools that go above 63 scholarships. But scholarships are expensive, especially when you factor in Title IX. And even the SEC, they set their cap at 85,
right.
I believe, unless they changed that within the last few months. But even the SEC is going, whoa, we're not going to go to 105 football scholarships because that's a lot of money. And so I know a lot of fans jump out there and say, wait, so Valley teams could go to 105 scholarships. Meanwhile, the Big Sky would be stuck at 63. Theoretically, yes, but that's millions of dollars in scholarship money there. And so, I tweeted this out too. The strategy here is going to be difficult and will probably be different for every mid-major school. Is what is better? If you have $1 million, just you raise $1 million or you move $1 million from here to here, what's better, adding more scholarships or just putting that money into revenue share? So for NDSU, what's better, having 80 scholarships or just having 63 scholarships and being able to pay those 63 guys on scholarship or equivalency guys, whatever it is, more money? Like what's more valuable, having more scholarships or more money to share? That you can make an argument, either way. I would maybe argue it's better to just pay your top guys more money rather than putting that money towards scholarship. But that's kind of an interesting decision that schools are going to make, which, by the way, these schools don't have a whole lot of extra money to be doing this anyways. So.
Last thing before I let you go, there is apparently another portal window that's going to open next week, according to several sources. These are for the players that have been designated as they were grandfathered in, like your spot is eventually going to be gone, that you can transfer for the next month. From, and I believe it starts a week from today, so it'll be July 14th to early August, which I'm interested now that I don't know what kind of players could be out there, Sam, but we could have, fall camp starts July 30th here in town, so we could have more player movement here over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, there might be a little bit, but it's not going to be any headline names or top players because this is just for, like you said, the designated players, and designated players means if your player is 106 through 120 on your roster, you're beyond the roster limit. But since you're grandfathered in, you are now designated. the NCAA created a new transfer portal window for these players, just in case, yes, you are grandfathered in, but schools might say, hey, yeah, you're grandfathered in, but we're going to cut things down slowly. So if you want to go now, we'll help you land at your next school. So if you're a Power 4 player, you're player 111, you're grandfathered in, but you're designated, but the school kind of goes, yeah, it might be better for you to move on. We'll help you land at an FCS school. Or if you're an FCS player, you're player 110. Hey, if you want more playing time, it's your junior year. You might be cut sooner than later.
Right.
Like, we'll help you land at a D2 school. So I know a lot of fans saw a new portal window and kind of freaked out, but, I think a coach called it a nothing burger, because it's going to be walk-ons that,
right.
Might get kind of pushed into this portal window, and we'll help you land at a school where you can play more. So it's a big deal for those players, but for fans and media, I don't think we'll notice a whole lot of moves, or notable moves, I should say.
All right, I promise next week we'll actually talk about stuff on the field. Does that work for you?
Yeah, that sounds good with me. Let's do it.
We've talked all about this for the last couple of months. Now it's done. Now we'll see. I'm really interested to actually see how this affects for donors. Are they going to give more now? And this is our poll question we'll have after you're gone, Sam. I'm interested. Do donors give more now that they full on know the school can directly pay the athlete? I'm really interested in that.
I would say, like, there are probably some donors that are maybe hard-headed or whatever you want to call it. Like, they just want to donate toward scholarships and facilities, and that's fine. But when it comes to paying players, there might be some that, like, third-party collectives, I don't know, how's that money exchange hands? What's the process there? Donate it right to schools. There's a more comfort factor. Plus, there's tax incentives, tax write-offs there as well. So I do think more fans would be willing to donate to schools instead of going through this third-party collective.
It's great to see you, Buck. Congratulations again. Hope you had a great time, and we'll see you next week, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Sam Herder back with us on this Monday morning, trying to decipher now that we are post-deadline and post-settlement decision on what went down. Again, and there was a few schools that actually decided to not opt in terms of the settlement. Incarnate Word was one, which I thought was interesting. UC Davis decided to opt out. Central Arkansas opted out. Those schools, which are traditional, pretty good football programs, decided to opt out of the settlement. Again, from Ross Dellinger, 319 schools opted in for the settlement. And we'll show you that graphic coming up later on in the show. We'll have more time in about 10:30 or so. All right, we'll break. We come back. We'll wrap up what's been an eventful first hour on the show. Back on Hot Mic right after this on WDAY Extra, WDAY Plus at Inforum.com. All right, welcome back, everybody. Wrapping up our first hour. Our poll question today, we got a bunch of votes on it. We put it out earlier, and we had some technical stuff earlier, so we didn't get a chance to get to it. But here it is. Are you more inclined to donate to a school now that they can directly pay the athletes? Yes, no, or didn't change my opinion? Feel free to vote. We'll give our results on this before we wrap up today. I'm interested in this because now the collective part, I think, was still maybe hard for people to wrap their minds around. And we're going to have Matt Larson on the show this week to maybe further explain the delineation now between what the collective will be and what the school can do, because I know he explained that a bit in the press conference that he had last week with NDSU deciding to officially opt in to the settlement. But now if you know, all right, if I want my money to directly go to football, I can do that. Whereas if it was just for scholarship money for football, there's a bit of a delineation line there, if you understand what I'm saying. Like, if I want this to directly go to the offensive line, or I want this to go to the wide receiver room, you could do that now. So I don't know if that is more of a factor to get people to donate. And I'm sure there's probably going to be a sentiment that even exists now, and we're more than halfway through 2025, that the athletes shouldn't get anything, which that's your prerogative, your opinion, but you can watch your football team crumble if that is your, and it's not just football, be basketball as well. If that's your line of thinking, that's fine, But I'm here to tell you that you can watch them just get passed on by because we're long past that. It's unfortunate. I'm sure for some. I've always been in the camp that the athletes were the only one not making anything. Everybody else was making money. They were the only ones left out of it, that they need to get something. And that now has definitely changed there. Email comes into the show. Dom, for those athletic departments in states, not the Dakotas, that are heavily subsidized by state funding, are those state funds considered athletic department revenue, which are then eligible for disbursements as institutional NIL? It's a good question. From what I understand, the answer is yes to that, because that money is designated for athletic department revenue. That's in the weeds, and I appreciate email around that because it's a difficult topic to get into, specifically to try to explain for people without their eyes glazing over and rolling to the back of the heads. But for how I understand it, the answer to that is yes. And I'm sure that's an advantage. There are going to be some schools that opted in simply because they will basically rob Peter to pay Paul. And what I mean by that is they're not going to fund their scholarships anymore for certain sports because they're going to pay their athletes in football and men's basketball. That's the red alert, the blaring siren you should be aware of here going as we turn towards the new school year. That you're going to see way more schools announce that they are discontinuing track. We're not going to play soccer. We're done with lacrosse. We're not going to have a field team as part of track. Washington State is a quote-unquote Power 4 school. They announced a couple weeks ago they're not having a field team anymore. They're just going to have track. They won't have the field part of it. Way more of that's coming. Volleyball, done. I'm telling you right now, that's why the lawsuits are out there as they are. The amount of women's sports are certainly in the crosshairs on this. Because where's the majority of money going to go? Football, men's basketball. For the schools that don't have football, of course, like Gonzaga, they're going to put all their money in men's basketball. Creighton, men's basketball. I'm sure some will go to women's basketball, but the lion's share is going to be men. And that's why the lawsuits are out there, and then the amount of people that are worried about what can be for the Olympic sports and the non-revenue sports going forward in this country from why this settlement went through and how it went through. We'll break. We come back. We'll bring him off vacation. I don't even know he's on vacation. We'll bring him in on vacation. Kolpack will join us. He was a busy man last week. We'll go through the numerous Bison football stories that went down. We'll chat a couple other topics as well. We start hour 2 on a Monday morning after this.
Hot Mike on the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo. It's that time. An author.
Offensive production, number 1. Number 2, forgot.
Golfer.
It'd be like going on a 3-person best shot, and we were saying, Kolpack, you got to make a 25-footer every time. You wouldn't putt first. I'd have Tim putt first.
And one heck of a TV personality.
This game is for the Cooper Cup.
It's the Forum's Jeff Kolpack.
4! I should have yelled 2.
Apparently, I didn't know he was on vacation. Maybe he didn't either, because I'm back and he's gone on vacation. Jeff Kolpack, his appearance is brought to us by Northwestern Mutual from the Man Cave in North Fargo. You were a busy boy last week, huh?
Well, yeah, you leave and all hell breaks loose. Pretty typical. You saw this coming, didn't you?
Time that out pretty good. I know you're talked to death on the settlement, but I want to hit on a couple things you wrote about last week. I don't think any of us are surprised that NDSU decided to opt in. What I am interested in, Jeff, is, and you can explain this further after we had Larson's press conference last week, is the future of the Green and Gold Collective. Is that now, for how I understand it, being molded into the university? Is that the best way to describe it?
Yeah, 100%. And that follows, I think, the pattern of everybody else across the country who opted in because, with the Power 4, you have to opt in. Those schools had to opt in. They had no choice, so they have $20.5 million, at least this year, to disperse from their own pockets. Really, I mean, let's just call it like it is. It's from their own pockets. I guess they can probably have a separate collective, maybe. But schools like NDSU, they don't have 20.5 million just sitting there to disperse to athletes. The total budget is what, 32 million,
Right.
around something like that. I know it's north of 30 million. So you're not going to take 20.5 million of that and throw to athletes. But with the collective now, and I think this is a huge deal, is that they have to take essentially what it's a separate third party and have it under the umbrella of team makers,
Right.
really. And so it's going to be the Green and Gold Fund. Now, does that mean that the Green and Gold Collective is going away? Absolutely not. I mean, it can't. It cannot go away. It's got to actually go forward, and it's just going to be under a little different paperwork trail, I guess. I mean,
Do you understand it that Jay and Kurt are still going to continue their work under
in some
NDSU
capacity,
now?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, they have to. I mean, if I'm NDSU in the athletic department, if I'm Matt Larson,
Absolutely.
I'll have to take those guys in at some capacity because they started it.
Yep.
I mean, Jay and Kurt started it. Nobody was lining up around the block and volunteering for that job.
Nope.
They're the ones that got it going. I mean, there wasn't a job application process to go, hey, can somebody start the collective here? I mean, those guys on their own, their own motivation started that and built it. And there's a lot to do. I mean, you're talking about dealing with all these athletes and contracts and there's a lot of details that go into that. It's just not taking a six-figure donation from some alum and go, okay, let's go there. There's a lot more to it. And so I would imagine, and I would think they would be, idiots for not taking those guys on in some capacity.
I think Larson acknowledging that the football team would not have won the national championship without them legitimized it for people that maybe have not given yet, Jeff, that without the collective's efforts, we're not sure if Gray Zabel or Cam Miller returns to the 2024 Bison.
Probably not. Yep, probably not. Certainly, it made a difference.
Yeah.
Gray may have stuck just because of the traditions of the NDSU offensive line. But remember the days of like Kobe Johnson and when those players first started leaving? I mean, they were leaving in the middle of playoff runs.
Yep.
And you don't see that anymore. I mean, they've lost a couple guys. Cody Heisman leaves, and that's if you can leave it, if you can keep it to 2 or 3 guys leaving, that's a huge victory. I mean, huge in the FCS. And they've done that. They kept Bryce Lance. They kept Gray Zabel. They've paid a whole lot of players. I mean, not a whole lot. I don't know, 5, 10, 15,000. Who knows? But they've paid a ton of players on top of what they're getting as far as Alston, as far as cost of attendance, as far as a scholarship. And I don't know how many FCS teams do that. It can't be very many. If they're the only one, I don't know.
We put the poll question out today, and I'm interested in your thoughts on this. Do you think people now are more inclined to donate to the school now that they know the money will go directly to the athlete? What do you think about that?
Well, I think bigger than that is it's tax deductible now. That to me is the biggest thing. Dom, you and I'm just guessing we're not in that ballpark of giving 100,000 and tax deducting it.
No. No.
It's like Kramer that just write it off.
It's a write-off.
It's just a write-off. It's like you don't even know what that is, and I honestly don't. As far as, but I think tax deductible is much bigger than the fact that it's going directly from the athletic department to the player. I don't know if the big donor cares how it's dispersed, whether it's from the Green and Gold Collective or the Green and Gold Fund.
The thing I was wondering, and I know I've had older donors tell me, is that they're more worried about maybe going to the collective and only donating once and not going to team makers. And I think NDSU, and I'm pretty sure Matt Larson was initially wary of this as well, that, well, if they're going to donate, they may not dip in twice. And I'm intrigued how that, because scholarships obviously still need to be funded, but you got to pay the athletes now.
Yeah, I asked Matt that question several months ago on, has the Green and Gold Collective, in your opinion, and it's probably still too early to really do a story or get data on it, but is it your gut feeling that the Green and Gold Collective has hurt team makers? And I think his answer was essentially no. I think Team Makers is still raising what 5 million.
They were,
6
I think it
million?
was 5.5 when they did their check presentation during the basketball. It was still
And
it was pretty good.
Yeah, that's no different than it was 4 years ago, as
Nope.
far as I can tell. So I don't think the collective has hurt Team Makers in the early indications anyway.
Yeah.
Now we'll see how going forward with now that it's under a little different look, I guess,
Right.
more than anything.
All right, let's do some news on the field. And the Bison football coaching staff had a shakeup last week, and a big one. A second longtime assistant is leaving. Nick Gazer obviously stepping down after 15 years, 10 national championships. Sounds like he's getting out of coaching. I saw this. I was shook. I'm like, holy cow, because Goose has been there with Craig Bohl, hired him in 2010 out of Minnesota Duluth. He's been a part of every national championship at the school in the Division I era. Jeff, this is a big one.
Huge, yeah, huge. They found an experienced guy to replace him in Cody Morgan. So, and interesting that he was hired like right now. So obviously this had been in the works for a while, and I'm sure Nick had been thinking about it for a while. I think his wife has a really good career, and his kids are of coachable age, getting to be, I don't know if they're close to teenagers. And maybe something had to give there. It's when you have two working parents,
Yep.
That's and both are extensive jobs. I think my gut feeling is something had to give. Now he didn't say that directly, but when he cited family reasons and to spend more time with his boys and his family, I think you can read into that there was a lot of time away there. 10 titles. I mean, I would love to know this question, and there's no way of finding out. And I tried to reference it in my column. But how many coaches at the NCAA level have won 10 rings, whether you're an assistant or a head coach?
Yeah.
It's got to be it's got to be rare air. I mean, it has to be.
Yeah.
I think Nick Saban won 7 titles as an FBS coach. The guy at Mount Union won 11. I can't remember his name. And so, but as an assistant, you never know. Some assistant could have bounced around and ended up at the right place at the right time 12 times. And so, but it's got to be pretty incredible area.
Let me ask you this. That's 2 rocks that have been part of the football staff since 2010 or 14 with Hedberg and Gazer. How do you think that manifests itself this upcoming year?
Well, I don't think – I mean, when Craig Bohl left, did all hell break loose? No. I think this program, and it started with Craig when he brought the Tampa 2 offense in 2003, or the West Coast offense, Tampa 2 defense. Things haven't really changed since then. I mean, they've adjusted, the faces have changed, but generally the same principles have stayed. I don't think this is going to really. I don't think fans will notice, who's doing the signals on the sideline or who's calling the passing plays in the coaching booth. I think they've proven over the years that they can next coach, one coach leaves, they bring in another one that does his job. And why would you think differently?
Yeah, that's 2 guys that you've seen forever be there. That's jarring, I think, even for someone like us that we cover the team, to not see either one there will be different when we get to the start of fall camp in a few weeks.
This is just going to give Randy Hedberg more time to sarcastically text me something that I wrote that he sarcastically will take shots at, and you too. So we'll probably get in-game text.
Oh, there's no doubt. Yeah, I'd appreciate that. That'd be fantastic.
Did you see that? Were you in the bathroom, or did you see that?
You mentioned Cody Morgan. We had him on the show. The ties there cannot be ignored. He's another Iola, Wisconsin guy, much like Tim Polisic, much like Nick Gazer is. He spent the last 2 years at Kent State. I have no reason why not to think he wanted to get the hell out of Kent State because of the worst FBS program going. Kenny Burns, former Bison assistant, actually got let go a few months ago there. And now he comes back to a place that he knows well to coach the D-tackle spot.
Yeah, and he's working under an interim head coach,
right?
Which that's
precarious, man.
Ground. Yep. So if I'm Kent State, I'd probably go through this year and start over somehow.
They will.
But what a disastrous program in really a league that's just blah. Yep. I mean, the MAC has just gotten worse, has it not?
I would say it has. Northern Illinois has had a downturn there, and obviously they're
Yep.
leaving after this year for the Mountain West in football, but it's not what it was 5-6 years ago. No, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I know you and I love Maction like anybody else that wants to watch college on a Tuesday. I can't imagine. I think he referenced it that it wasn't really that fun coaching on a Tuesday or Wednesday night when nobody's there.
And the fact, though, that Polasek had and you've talked about this, and I have as well. When there's a guy that leaves, every head coach has a list, Jeff. And obviously, Tim had Cody right at the very top say, if there's a potential here, I'm calling him.
Well, they all do. I mean, Tim has that's the job of the head coach, is to be prepared for anything of anybody leaving. And I'm sure he's got coaches in mind on every position on his staff that if this guy leaves, if Devin Kleiman leaves, I already got my top 3 candidates. Just as an AD should with all his head coaches. You know, if this person leaves, these are my top picks, and I have a short list here. Curious to see when a men's golf coach is going to get hired here.
Yeah, it's July 7th. The season starts in just over a month and a half, right? So they gotta figure that out in the not too distant future. I am intrigued on I had this brought up to me last week when I was on vacation, and I saw this, that Morgan left as he was a defensive coordinator for a position coach job at an FCS school. If that doesn't tell you what Kent State is at and where North Dakota State at, then I don't know what to tell you.
Then nothing.
Right?
Yeah, then nothing will. Right. And easy decision for him, in my opinion. When Tim Polasek came calling and said, yeah, and I wonder if the money is probably similar, too, if you think about it. I mean, what is Kent State going to pay their assistant coaches?
Eric tells me it's 150.
Kent State is not even a good. Yeah, they wouldn't even be good FCS program.
No, Kent State has routinely been beaten by FCS teams over the last 7-8 years. It's $150K for D coordinator at Kent State. So he's probably taken, I would bet you, maybe in a pay cut.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But I would say this, knowing full well to attach myself to the Polasek train, because if the Bison are good again, you have to think, Jeff, that come December, we're talking Polasek's name's going to be out there. It would be hard for me not to imagine that.
I would imagine it's already out there.
Yep.
It was out there after you win a national title. I think Bison fans would be joyed to see if Tim Polasek stayed one more year after this year.
I would agree with that, knowing full well the kind of team they have. Yep, I totally agree on that. All right, buddy boy, I really appreciate you sidetracking your vacation to give us a few minutes. Have a great week off, all right?
Yes, I'm coming from an undisclosed location. Don't let that K in the background, affect you where I'm at.
By the way, here's a way to ruin your vacation. Big 12 Media Days start tomorrow. Kleiman is talking tomorrow, and of all places, Frisco. It's in Frisco this year.
Well, people in Fargo beware, because Ryan Bach in the Grand Forks Herald, longtime writer, his funeral is today in Fargo. Yeah. So there's a lot of unintelligent writers running around Fargo right now. So beware. Look both ways on a one-way.
Have a great vacation, bud. We'll see you next week, all right? There he goes. Jeff Kolpack joining us on his Monday time slot, despite the fact he's on vacation. We appreciate his time, his appearances each and every Monday, brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. And, yes, condolences, of course, to the family of Ryan Bakken I saw, who passed away. Long time sports writer at the Grand Forks Herald. All right, we're overdue for a break. We'll get caught up in a couple items here after our start of the show with Sidelined. A couple emails coming as well. Where is that camera at? Where am I looking at here? Oh, DL got a new angle there. I like that. Back on Hot Mic right after this. All right, welcome back, everybody. Monday morning show rolls on. Great to be back here in the big chair. 2 weeks from today, heads up, Missouri Valley Football Conference Media Day taking place in Sioux Falls. We will be there for that to unofficially kick off the 2025 football season down at the Pentagon in Sioux Falls. For those that have been following this for a little bit and have watched our show, each of the last 2 years, the Summit League has held its basketball media day in Sioux Falls. We've been down there for that at the Premier Center. And now with the powers that be that are now running the Missouri Valley Football Conference, there was another change that was enacted on July 1 as Jeff Jackson is now the commissioner of the conference with Josh Fenton as the special advisor. and Kyle Grooms is the chief operating officer. That was high priority, they had heard, was to establish a football media day, and that will be taking place in 2 weeks' time down in Sioux Falls. I believe the same day as the Big Sky is having its media day. That run will happen right there in a couple weeks. I mentioned off the top of the show that the talking season officially begins tomorrow with the Big 12, and I was just looking here at the attendees that are going to be in Frisco over the next 2 days. It'll be tomorrow and on Wednesday at the Star, of course, in Dallas. We know the place quite well. There are a few names that, and we'll plug in on this because we have a handful of our teams locally that are facing Big 12 opponents. Obviously, North Dakota is facing Chris Kleiman in Kansas State to start the Eric Schmidt era. The Travis Johansson era at South Dakota begins against Matt Campbell and Iowa State to start the season as well. Tomorrow, the teams that are going to be there: Arizona State, Baylor, BYU, Central Florida, Cincinnati, Iowa State, K-State, and Texas Tech. And I was just scrolling because I get the emails from the Big 12 now. One Cole Wisniewski is going to be there for Texas Tech, who has not played it down yet for the Red Raiders. Granted, their entire roster is transfer heavy, but the former Bison All-American, who you remember did not play at all last year after rehabbing ankle surgery that he had in late August, entered the portal in November, December, and ended up transferring to Texas Tech as one of the invited athletes that'll be at Big 12 Media Days this year. Wednesday, Arizona, Colorado, Houston, Kansas, Oklahoma State, TCU, Utah, and West Virginia will go. Not nearly the fanfare with Colorado as it was last year. Obviously, we went because the Bison were facing Colorado with Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. The Buffaloes don't have that it factor. I'm not saying they won't be good in 2025, just don't have the eyeballs like they had on it last year. Because I could tell you from firsthand experience, and Eric can attest to this as well, we were there, that even the day before Colorado was there, everybody was still talking about Dion. It was just lightning rod deal last year. And then Travis Hunter didn't even show at Big 12 Media Days last year when we were in Las Vegas. But it's definitely different this year. Just doesn't have, at least to me, doesn't have the same kind of feel. I am interested because we've talked so much over the last couple months about things that happen off the field, of actually getting stuff that happened on it now. That almost seems foreign. We were talking with Kolpack in that previous segment on the coaching changes that went down for the Bison. That alone is jarring because it's actually stuff that we're dealing with on the field. Like summer workouts are going on and teams are full preparation to get ready for the upcoming season, which for nearly everybody is 54 days out. Seems like that is lost right now. All we're talking about is the things that happen away from the gridiron of the courts. Instead, we're dealing with the legal courts. That's all we've been talking about, it seems like, over the last, I'd say, 2 to 3 months. It's basically since March Madness ended in early April, right? It's 3 months ago since the basketball tournament wrapped up. That's what we feel like we've been in, whether it have been the portal, whether it have been NIL, whether it have been the settlement. That's what's dominated, at least for me, the overarching theme of the last 3 months. Because it's been affected here in our own backyard. Marty Brown left to go to Miami. Cody Heisman left to go to Virginia Tech. You saw the exodus of guys that left South Dakota's roster to go. You saw a handful of other really talented Valley players. You couldn't ignore it. But again, it was dominating the stuff that we cover. That now actually, all right, well, I got to start getting ready for who actually is on the team, who's going to contribute to the team. You got to get mentally refocused now because it's been so much on things that haven't happened on that now it's going to take some time to get ready to get stuff that's back actually for teams that are playing and people that are playing. That to me is going to be at least jarring to start. I'm excited actually to talk about it because I know for a majority of our listeners, viewers, fans, that's what they want to hear about. But I will tell you, you cannot ignore the things that have been happening over the last little bit. You just can't. You can't do your job or do our job successfully and navigate that over the last little bit. Just you wouldn't be doing it properly. That, to me, would be doing a disservice to the people that watch or listen to the show. To say, well, everything, we're just going to talk about stuff that's going on the court. Also, later today, or actually, later this week, because I got the email about it from the Timberwolves, that it will be officially official. That also happened. The changeover happened, that the ownership change has now gone through, that Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry are the owners of the team. This Friday on the 11th, because NBA Summer League is officially underway, they have the off-site games in San Francisco and in Utah, if I remember correct. The Summer League proper begins this Thursday in Vegas. They will introduce formally A-Rod and Lowry on Friday at 2 o'clock Central Time for a press conference there to address them taking over the team, ownership, and future of the franchises, both them and the Lynx, on where things go. Be intrigued to hear that, their ideas, what the offseason is going to look like. I was gone last week, but the Wolves paid Julius Randle. Not entirely surprised, maybe moderately surprised is the best way to describe it. Maybe I'll save this because we're up against a break here. I am certainly surprised they paid Naz Reid what they paid him. That one was eye-opening. But they made those two moves. I believe our guy Luka Garza is gone. Josh Minot is gone. But a handful of the young guys that we need to see play, Jalen Clark, Dillingham, Shannon, are all playing at Summer League. And you can roll your eyes to the back of your head. I know, understand on that it's Summer League. But they need to play. They need to get better. And this is an opportunity to do it here over the next couple weeks, starting Thursday out in Vegas. All right, we're over for a break. I want to spend a little more time on that and a couple other topics. We are guest-free the rest of the way here on this Monday morning. Back on Hot Mic on WDAY Extra, KSFL, KMBN, and Inforum.com right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Monday morning show rolls on here on this overcast day. First Monday of July. Tomorrow, I believe, Mike McFeely will join us in studio. I haven't seen Mike in over a month, so each of us have either been on vacation at the other time, so I'm hopeful that we'll have a chance to actually just reconnect. I haven't seen him forever. And a couple other fun stuff we're going to plan on the show for tomorrow. Email came in over the break. Dom, did you see the finished outline for Minnesota high school football for 2025? I, in fact, did not. I was just looking over this. This got announced last week, right before the holiday. The big one we obviously talked about ad nauseum back in April was Moorhead now moving up to 6A. They were placed in the Metro West, which includes defending state champ Maple Grove, Edina, Minnetonka, Eden Prairie, which the Maple Grove's coming here. The Spuds go to Edina. Minnetonka they go there. At Eden Prairie, they go there. I think Wayzata, St. Michael come up here, and there's one other. That's going to be a huge story once we get closer to it. I was looking more regionally around here if anybody got substantially moved. The mid-northwest, the north will be Barnesville, DGF, Hawley, Perham, Pillager, Staples, Motley. That's not bad. The Central is Breck, Frazee, LPA, Monaga, New York Mills, OTC, Parker's Prairie, and Wadena Deer Creek. I know there were times, though, and this may still be the case, Barnesville would have to go and Hawley had to go play Warroad or have to play Roseau. Still shake my head at that. And the gold part of that is Ashby, Benson, BBE, Browerville, Long Prairie Gray Eagle, Maple Lake, Uppsala, Swanville, and West Central area. They still play their section. They come here to the Dome in late October. The North Central is Bagley, Cass Lake, Nevis, Park Christian, Pine River Bacchus, Walker, Hackensack, Akeley. And then the red is EGF, Park Rapids, Pelican. Pelican not being in with Barnesville, DGF, Hawley, and Perham. I don't understand that. Roseau, Thief River, and Warroad. And the Valley Plains West is Ada, Crookston, Mahnomen, Waban, Polk County West, Red Lake, and Red Lake County. Remember, those are two separate entities there. That's the big changes. Again, the big one that we've talked about, though, is Moorhead moving on up. And considering, since I've been gone, I believe two other players have gotten Division I offers. Spuds are primed that they think they're going to be pretty darn good in football in 2026. All right, a couple other topics I wanted to hit since we've been gone. First, I talked off the top of the show, was on the Twins. And I wanted to hit this a little harder than because we had some technical stuff going off the top of the show. So, yesterday, they finally won a series for the first time in a month. Think about that. Since Pablo Lopez went down, the Twins had not won a single series in that time frame and have seen their playoff hopes, in my opinion, torpedoed over that time frame. You have to go back the last time that they won a series. Think about this, right? They won that series with Seattle, right? Prior to that, you have to go all the way back to the beginning of June when they played Oakland. I still call them Oakland, Sacramento, whatever you want to call them. They'd won one series since then. And Lopez got hurt then. That was the series he went down, was when the Twins were out in Sacramento. After that, they lost 2 of 3 to the Blue Jays, lost 2 of 3 to Texas, got swept by the Astros, lost 2 of 3 to the Reds, certainly got swept by the Brewers, split a series with the Mariners, right? They took 2 of 4 there, lost 2 of 3 to the Tigers, lost 2 of 3 to the Marlins, and then just beat the Rays. That is a long stretch without winning a series. And now, heading into the break, you have the Cubs coming into Target Field, which there was a shot during the game yesterday, and I don't think our highlights have it from the game yesterday. I just flipped it on when we got home and we're unpacking and whatever. But there was a wide shot of Target Field, and the game was in the 7th or 8th inning. And I know it dragged a bit because they played extra innings, that you could have shot a cannon through there, and it was empty. On a Sunday, and it was beautiful out yesterday. It was in the Twin Cities. We were there. We were flying through there. Nobody was there. And there will be more people there this coming week because the Cubs will bring their fans. Chicago will have plenty of Cubs fans at Target Field. But that's alarming. And then the Pirates come in, and the Pirates maybe have the most recognizable young pitcher in the game in Paul Skeens. He's supposed to throw Saturday. That's still tentative if they want him to start for the National League in the All-Star game in Atlanta a week from tomorrow. But the disconcerting part of this is, again, the relative, I don't know what the right word is. There's just no buzz about the baseball team. None. And, frankly, ownership has given fans nothing to be excited about. Harrison Bader's turned out to be a pretty good signing. Say that. He had a huge home run yesterday to tie the game. That was big hit. He's been good. But Royce Lewis is finally back. Brooks Lee has been okay. Buxton obviously has had a dynamite year. Ryan's been really good. Ober's hurt now, so you got another starter that's on the injured list. I mean, for the how many days that Luke Keyshaw was up, 3 before he got hurt, that was a nice bright spot. Hopefully he's coming back sometime this month, that you plug him in right away in the line. I don't even hesitate. The way that he was contributing, you play him immediately. But just the relative malaise of fans up here. And I don't know I'm sure it's a combination of A, the team is just bleh. B, I think it's still hard to find the games for a certain section of fans. Or C, some have just said, I'm done. I'm not going to make the extra effort to find the games if I didn't have it to begin with. D, the ownership mess hasn't been resolved yet. All of those factors have to be omnipresent in my mind that surround this baseball team. At least up here. You just don't feel any excitement. And the old adage was, especially when I was still anchoring the weekend sports, was have the Twins be interesting till the Vikings start camp. Just be in the race or in the division chase until the Vikes open training camp. And then whatever after that is gravy. That was, for the sports anchors in town, we used to always joke about that. Well, what do you got? Well, let's see. Twins could show a couple highlights there because they're still kind of relevant. The Red Hawks are playing. Got a couple Legion games. Next week is Lions All-Star Basketball. Yeah, you got that. And then next week the Vikes show up. And then you're all set because then the Vikes are there. Then the Bison and UND go. And then you're off and rolling. High school after that, bam, donezo. They're not even there. I mean, we just wrapped up the 4th of July, and they're not interesting in the least. I mean, I've been debating over the last little bit when I was on vacation, like, how much time are we going to devote to the Twins on each show? I mean, we've got Corey on Fridays, and he's fantastic. But for the average fan right now, maybe I'm missing it, but I don't sense it's like, we got to pay attention. I think there's way more interest in what the Vikings are going to do. And granted, that happens anyway because the Vikings are more popular than the Twins. But even the Timberwolves, we were just talking on the last segment on the Summer League stuff. Like, there's more interest there. I would think, A, there's new ownership, so there's automatically a buzz there with A-Rod and Laurie taking over. B, the draft just came and went, and I understand they drafted 2 guys that aren't going to be part of the team in 2026. Beranger is going to play in the Summer League. I think Zakarsky is as well. So we'll get a couple looks at the big guys they drafted. But there's more interest there out of season, like the Wolves signed Randall and they signed Nas, than there is with a team that's currently playing. Heck, I think there's more interest in the Wild. And the Wild really didn't do anything last week, unless I missed it. I know they traded for Tarasenko. I don't think they signed anybody important. The Twins have suddenly fallen there. And I understand for the hardcores that watch every night that they are plugged in. They know the top 10 prospects, great. But that's a bigger issue right now is, A, there ain't nobody going to the games. And I know Tampa's not a great draw. So let's see this weekend when the Pirates are there, right? Take the Cubs out of the mix because the Cubs are going to draw. But when the Pirates are at Target Field next Friday, Saturday, Sunday, how's that going to look? Especially if the team is still under 5. I don't see it changing. Could be a long second half. That's why I was imploring them before I went on vacation. Make a move. Blow it up. It ain't. What are you hanging on to? You're behind about 8 teams in the wild card race right now. We'll see. I'm definitely interested to see if they make a move to say, okay, we're going to part with Griffin Jacks. We're going to, because we asked Corey Provis about this, we're going to move Duran, right? We're going to move Cole Sands. Then you could get something. Teams overpay for middle inning relievers like you wouldn't believe. And you could say, well, we're restarting again with a prospect. Well, what else are you doing? You're going nowhere. All right, we're due for a break. We'll take our final one here. We come back. We'll wrap things up, get you ready for, I'd say, an intriguing Sports Monday. I'm Mike. We'll wrap on WDAY Extra right after this. All right, wrapping things up here on this Monday morning. Got a couple emails in here to get to before we wrap up the show. One was asking about for NBA Summer League for the numbers for the local guys. Jackson Money is wearing number 37 with the San Antonio Spurs. They've played a couple games. Jackson has barely played. We'll see if he gets some run here. They have one more in that group before they move to Las Vegas. Tyson Ward did the same thing last year. You remember, for Bison Grape, who played with the Spurs Summer League outfit. I just looked up the Brooklyn Nets announced over the weekend their Summer League roster. You can see right there, number 16 is one Grant Nelson. And you can see their first game at the bottom against Oklahoma City coming up. That's on Thursday at 4:30 on ESPN2. So all their games are televised because sports networks need programming, live sports programming this time of year. So chance to see Grant over the next few days, July 10th, 13th, 15th, and 16th. They're guaranteed 5 games out there. And if he does anything, we'll keep our eyes peeled on that. Email comes into the show. Dom, it's interesting that Fargo Forum Communications has bid on airing South Dakota high school sports tournaments. That story Mike McFeely wrote about over the weekend. If successful, will there be a hot mic in South Dakota? First off, we're on in South Dakota. Hot Mic is on every day in Sioux Falls, Rapid City, across the state, so they don't need one. They also have another program. John Gaskins has his Happy Hour show podcast that has some video as well. So there are elements there, but we're on in South Dakota every day. Like to make sure we have plenty of South Dakota elements in our show. Another email. Dom, welcome back from your adventure. Just a quick thanks to Sam in your absence. He did a very fine job, but it's good to see you back. I appreciate that. Sam did an awesome job. We appreciate him filling. I know it's tough for him. He's got to get up early, which is not his cup of tea. And he's got a well-earned vacation coming up here in just a few days. All right, let's do our poll question here off the top of the show. We tried to do it sometime in the second hour. We posted it before the show got going, asking, now that you can donate to schools and knowing full well that they will pay them directly, did that change your mind about donating to schools? 44% say no. Are you more inclined to donate to a school now that they can directly pay the athletes? 35% said it didn't change your opinion. About 19% said yes. About 145 votes that came in this morning. We appreciate that. That's probably about what I thought heading into this. I am intrigued, though, to see if donors do this to NIL rather than to scholarships, because that they still need. That's something we'll be keeping our eyes on here over the next little bit. All right, let's do some what to watch before we get out of here. What to Watch is brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. We appreciate their sponsorship of our program each and every day. All right, Wimbledon is happening now. I flipped it on occasionally. It's a summertime tradition, at least in my house, to see the grass deteriorate as the tournament goes on. Round of 16 is going on today, both ESPN and ESPN2 all day long with matches there from the All England Club. Rays and Tigers coming up tonight. Twins are off tonight as they get ready for the Cubs. So you get to see the first place team in Detroit play the team the Twins just matched up with in Tampa, 5:30 on FS1. And there is more soccer. It is the summer of soccer. The Gold Cup wrapped up last night. We lost again to Mexico. The European Women's Championship is going on. Spain is the reigning champions. They won the World Cup a couple years ago. They play Belgium coming up at the top of the hour on FS1. Our thanks to Sam Herder and to Jeff Kolpack for joining us. If you missed any of the show, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. You can watch a full replay on WDAY+. Great to be back. Hope everybody has a great Monday. We'll see you back here tomorrow on Hot Mic on WDAY Extra, WDAY Plus, KSFL, and KMBN.